So they don't make this right. When I got the message, I looked at the window and I saw it moving. When I'm going to meet with that Derek guy, whatever he was, his name was. Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 3 o'clock. We are in the City Council chambers. This is a public meeting scheduled for the Committee of the Whole Council to discuss Old St. Elizabeth Hospital demolition with the citizens of Hannibal. At this time, I would ask Candy to call the roll for us.
Councilman Haycraft,
Here.
Councilman Cohen,
Here.
Councilman Leaders, Councilman Fleetwood,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Munger,
Here.
Mayor Wolf.
Here. There being a quorum, call the meeting to order. This time we'll do a quick pledge of allegiance before we begin, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. So I'll let City Manager Dorian explain kind of the process here in just a minute, but he'll kind of go over the overall process, and then at the end we will take questions from the audience. At that time, I'll come out there with the microphone. We just ask that you speak into the microphone. We are recording this and live on YouTube for those that can't attend to be able to see that. Want to make sure that they hear the questions and answers clearly. And then also for those watching online or here, we will have another one of these meetings scheduled for 7 o'clock tonight. Kind of the same process. So with nothing else from me, turn it over to Andy.
Thank you, Mayor. So basically how this is going to go today is we're just going to do a general rundown of the project and what that's going to kind of look like. I'm going to turn it over to Jessica with Klingner. She's our project manager. And then after that, we'll open it up to you guys for any discussions. I know this has been a long time coming. We started work here within the last week or so, and so we're kind of excited to get everything going. So, Jessica, if you want to give the project rundown.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. Can I actually take this off here? That might be better. All right. So I just want to give you kind of a brief overview of the project, and then we'll talk about some of the ways that it might impact you as residents living in that area. So we have two contractors associated with the project. One is Green Track, and they're doing the actual building demolition. And then we also have General Waste Services. They're contracted for the hazardous waste removal. And so they have started work already. They started on July 1st. So may have already seen them coming in and out of the building, working on hazardous material removal. That work will continue through the end of August. And then as some of those buildings are cleared of hazardous materials, Green Track will be coming in and starting some of the demolition on those buildings. Green Track has started doing some of the demolition on the paving on the east parking lot there. So that started just on Monday of this week, I think the 13th. So you see them on site as well. In terms of some salvage materials, lots of folks were interested in the Statue of Mary. That's above that east entrance. That is being salvaged. So Green Track will be removing that. As well as there are 3 crosses, two above that entrance, and one on the west side of the property. So all of those are being salvaged prior to demolition. As far as actual demolition processes, demolition is by mechanical means, so there won't be any explosive use while they're doing the demolitions. Mainly we'll be using excavators, long reach excavators. Not sure that we'll see a crane or anything on this site. There's a potential for that, but right now they're thinking probably mechanical means with excavators. You'll start to see some increased truck traffic as we have trucks coming in, loading up materials to go to landfill or clean construction debris locations. And then at the very end of the project, that's just gonna be a grass lot. So all the buildings are coming out, all the paving is coming out, all the foundations are coming out, capping utilities. So it will just be a green lot. On the east side, that east parking lot area, it would be the far east retaining wall along the property boundary will stay. The other retaining wall kind of in the middle of that site is coming out, so that will just be kind of a smooth grass hill there. As far as impacts to you all, there will be some road closures during certain portions of demolition. So Andy handed out kind of some maps showing some of those closures. These are anticipated, and this is on the agenda as well for you. So one that you may see probably sooner rather than later is alley access being restricted here. We've told them that they can close that anytime after the 13th. When I was there on the 13th, it was still open, and I expect them to leave it open a little bit longer. But they're gonna start pulling some of the paving out on that north end, and once they start that work, that perimeter fence is gonna block the alley, so you'll have to access the alley from the north. Perimeter fence is up all the way around that facility. Don't cross those perimeter fences. You will see perimeter fence start to go up on that east parking area. That will be more like plastic snow fence over there because we don't have the concern about people getting in those buildings while we're doing hazardous materials removal. But so those will start going up as they start removing some of those walls around the sidewalks there. As far as road closures go, so Magnolia there on the west side of the site, we look for a portion of that to be closed to vehicle traffic, and that will be the whole street, while the patient tower, which is kind of that 5 or 6 story white and brick colored building, when they're taking that down, as well as on that northwest building, there's a smokestack there. So when they're doing the demo on those, they'll be closing that street so they have access, and also just for site and public safety as well. We expect that work to take about a week for each of those portions. So you may see that street close for a week, and then reopen, and then close later. So during that time, we would maintain the sidewalk access so that you can walk to your houses, but there wouldn't be parking directly in those areas, and then no vehicle traffic through there as well. The work on the patient tower is expected to occur sometime in mid-September to mid-October, so a little further out. And then the work on that northwest building, the one with the smokestack, is expected to occur near the end of November. For Virginia Street, we're expecting a 1-lane closure. The building's a little further set off from the street on that side. So while they're demoing some of those east walls, we expect them to close 1 lane of Virginia. So you'll see one-way traffic through there. There will be a few days where they have all of Virginia Street, a portion of Virginia Street completely closed, both lanes of traffic, while they're moving that statue, so they have room to work there. But otherwise, those are kind of the street closures that we anticipate. Again, fairly limited, really only while they're working in some of those specific areas. As far as working hours go, we've asked the contractor to restrict their heavy equipment use to 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. So you may see the contractor on site earlier than that. They're allowed to do work inside of the building, but we have asked them not to use some of that heavy equipment just to keep noise levels down in the early morning hours and in some of the evening hours when we expect more residents to be home. Other than that, I mean, kind of general site safety. we're having hazardous materials removed from the buildings. As those are removed, some of that work is being done inside of containments. So those are negative air containments to kind of keep any hazards inside of those restricted areas. Those areas are being cleared. We're having PE engineers out of St. Louis come up to do air sampling on those containments before they take them down, just so that we know that there's nothing left there when we go to take those buildings down. Otherwise, don't cross any fencing or temporary barriers. They may have caution tape or something up while they're doing some of these limited demolitions on the edges, so make sure you're not crossing any of those kinds of barriers. The contractor is required to use dust control. We anticipate that would be just water misting, water spraying while they're doing demolition to try to keep some of the dust down, particularly in this residential area. Yeah, and otherwise, when you see streets closed, don't try to go around those barriers. Give the contractor sufficient room. Those barriers are up for your protection as well. So that's all I got.
Okay. One thing I will add, right now we had talked about it going to a grass lot afterwards. Obviously at some point in time there'll be future plans. There is no plans right now other than just grass lot. There'll be something that we work with the council and the community on later at a later date. And then next spring, which would be April, we plan on repaving all of Virginia. We're probably going to end up having to repave at least a portion of Magnolia, and then looking at Broadway extension, since the truck traffic is going to be coming in and out of there to Grand, probably have to repave that as well. So I just kind of want to let you guys know. Virginia's been on the list for a while to be repaved, but we've been waiting for this, so that is coming. Want to do questions? Questions?
Does the council have any
Yeah.
questions? Yeah, start with that.
Well, I do actually have a question. Sorry. Mic on.
That's okay.
So I saw on the parking lots, were they part of this project?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that. That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
That's good.
The plan right now, we've talked with the contractor, is at some point in time, I think they're going to bring a crusher in.
I don't know that they're going to.
They're not going to now?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
honestly.
Yeah.
Their crusher's quite large. They're concerned about some of the DOT permitting to get it here.
Get it in, yeah.
Maybe not a project that's quite big enough for it, so.
I'm sure that is substantial.
Okay, so then they'll just do haul-offs, so, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I did have a letter from a resident in that ward. He just asked me to read it. He could not make it. His Knights Columbus, and they're doing a free marketing fish fry for Music Under the Stars. So he's unable to attend the meetings. But I was just going to read it on his behalf. If that's okay right now? Sure. It's from Mr. Eric Long, and he just want to thank Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. He is writing as a member of Hannibal Knights of Columbus and a resident who deeply cares about the future of our community. He wanted to thank the city for listening to the concerns for so many citizens regarding the preservation of the religious and historical artifacts from St. Elizabeth Hospital. Our commitment to preserving these important pieces of Hannibal's history and offering them to the Catholic Church is greatly appreciated. As we look toward the future of St. Elizabeth property, I would like to respectfully propose the land remaining after the demolition be transformed into a community park. For generations, St. Elizabeth Hospital was a place of healing, compassion, hope, and service. Rather than allowing the property to become another vacant lot, we have an opportunity to create something that continues serving the people of Hannibal. A thoughtfully designed park could include walking paths, benches, shade trees, landscaping, and open green spaces where families can gather, children can play, neighbors can enjoy the outdoors if possible. The preserved St. Elizabeth statue could become a centerpiece of the park, providing a beautiful reminder of the hospital's legacy while honoring the sisters who dedicated their lives for caring for our community. The park could also incorporate commemorative bricks from the hospital, historical markers telling the story of St. Elizabeth Hospital, and memorials recognizing the doctors, nurses, sisters, staff, and volunteers who touched countless lives. This project would preserve our history while creating a lasting asset for future generations. It would beautify an important gateway into our city, increasing nearby property values, encouraging tourism, and provide a peaceful place for reflection and recreation. He also believes that this project in our community could rally behind local businesses, civic organizations, churches, service clubs, and volunteers would likely be willing to contribute time, labor, materials, and financial support to help make this vision become a reality. Organizations such as the Knights of Columbus 907 would gladly explore ways to assist if called upon. St. Elizabeth Hospital cared for our community for nearly a century. Even after the buildings are gone, the land can continue to serve the people of Hannibal in a new way. I respectfully ask the City Council to consider dedicating this property as a public community park and to invite public input as plans for the site to move forward. Thank you for all service and considering the proposal. Eric Long. So,
Okay. Very good.
yep.
As Third Ward Councilman, I would like to speak next.
Absolutely.
Since it's in my ward,
Sure.
our ward. I very much appreciate those comments in that letter. Please thank him for me. Almost all the comments I've heard from my neighbors, since I live a block away from the hospital, have been relatively the same. They want it turned into a community park where the neighborhood, not only neighborhood kids, but from all over, the kids from all over the city can come and enjoy a relaxing time, be refreshed, so to speak. In addition to that, I had just last night was speaking to one of my neighbors, said, have you considered putting possibly a splash pad there for the kids of the city, someplace they can relax without mom and dad having to pay the money to get into a park? I don't know all the legal ramifications of something like that. We would have to consult with our council on that, see what kind of liability might fall upon the city. But we are, if you have any comments, you can flag down me at any time, or any of the other members of the council, or the mayor himself. We're always soliciting, I'm always looking for comments on what people would like to have for that space. But the general consensus right now that I've heard is to turn it into a park. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've heard a lot of the same things, and I've spoken with the city manager a few times about it. And I think once we get it back to the grass lot that it will be when this project's finished, then we really need to sit down. Of course, that'll be next budget year and figure that out. And then we want to work with the park board as well, because we have a good board that takes care of our park system and stuff like that. So we want to make sure that they're involved and that they have, help us through that process if that's the route.
And I imagine there's a lot of people like Knights of Columbus, Y-Men's, various other churches and civic organizations throughout the city would be more than willing to help out with time and energy.
Gentlemen, questions? One thing that I know, Jessica, I think that we talked about in that meeting that we had last time, maybe we did, maybe we didn't, and I'm sure that's gonna be a question from the audience, but there's some timelines on here as far as, the patient tower, mid-September to mid-October, Northwest Building near the end of November. Do we have an anticipated timeline when it will be completely finished? Because I'm sure that's probably a burning question that everybody has.
Yeah, good. Good. I did not say that during my little spiel. Yes, the demolition is proposed to be completely finished at the end of the year. So we may see seeding in the spring just because grass seed doesn't grow great in December. However, all the demolition work should be wrapping up near the end of November, and then we'll see site grading and things happening there in December.
Thank you for that. And then I think another thing that I just wanted to add, and we don't have it set in stone or brick if you want, I guess, but we had discussed the option of getting some bricks that we will, basically the city will work with the contractor to haul some of that off-site, and we'll offer those commemorative bricks from the hospital to the general public. That program has not been completely established yet, and we will share that information once we get that set up. Is that good? Okay.
I did have a question for Andy.
Sure.
The alleyway behind the houses on Magnolia, that's all opened up and no issues with them being able to use that?
No, that's part of it. It's closed. And so we had sent out letters to everyone letting them know we will permanently close it on the 13th. It's still open now, but at some point it will be closed.
But they will be able to use the alleyway back?
They'll be able to use it from the other side, but not the throughway.
Okay.
Any other questions, council? Okay. How about you in the audience? Questions? If you want, let me do it this way.
Hi, my name's Beth Hinton. My son actually lives catty corner to the back lot of the old hospital. So my biggest concern is they have a 1-year-old daughter, and I'm really concerned about the air quality during construction. So I'm just curious, as far as hazardous materials, you've said that there's asbestos that's being removed. There's other concerns such as mold, and possibly lead-based paint, since some of the buildings were built in the 20s. So I was just curious about, is the public going to know exactly if there were any other hazardous materials removed? And also during demolition, if there's any hazardous materials that are discovered, what happens then?
So asbestos is not the only hazardous material being removed right now. So asbestos is like probably the bulk of that hazardous material project that's going on right now. In addition to that, yeah, there's things like mercury thermometers and fluorescent lighting. Those kinds of things are all coming out. In terms of lead-based paint, so that material will stay in the building during demolition. That material has to go to a landfill. And that is another reason that dust suppression is required on this project. So the contractor should be, fire hose type situation, keeping this building wet so that you don't have these clouds of dust coming off. So that's not just our project requirement, that's a federal requirement for demolitions. And so that's the intent of that, is to keep any of that dust contained. In terms of things like mold, very similar situation. They're not gonna remediate mold in those buildings. If they did that, this would be, there is a significant amount of mold in there. But again, the concern with mold and with lead, things like that, is really the dust coming off of it. And so that's what that dust suppression is required for during demolition, so.
Yeah, what is required is a full environmental assessment of the entire building prior to. So we did that several months ago, identifying every square inch of the property, looking at, and the engineers and environmental people did that. And that's based, the bid specs off of that is based on what the environmental people came in, and that's what they're removing. So we have that list that we can share with anybody if they'd like to see it.
And if one of you would like to address the negative airflow so that none gets out.
So during asbestos abatement, so what they do is they put the building under negative air. So essentially it's sucking air in, and then that air is filtered before it's kicked back out. So it's actually triple filtered. So they do that that's a standard procedure during asbestos abatement. So that, yeah, you're not pushing contaminated air out of the building while you're disturbing those materials. Also, while they're removing materials, even while they're in containment, when they're doing asbestos abatement, they're required to keep those materials what's called adequately wet. So they're not going into containments and just creating a whole bunch of dust within the containment either. You'll actually see they have, if you go out and look at the fire hydrants right now, they're all hooked up because they're taking water into the building and they're misting all of those materials to keep dust down in the building while they're removing those materials as well. So a couple different safety measures there for hazardous materials.
Air sample testing?
Yeah,
How
so
often is that?
we do clearance samples. So with hazardous materials, with asbestos particularly, the clearance sampling is done for when we do friable removal. So friable removal are those materials that are particularly dusty, that are really easy to make airborne. So anytime that we're working with removal of those materials, that's when we're doing that clearance sampling prior to taking those containments down.
So if for some reason something were to get out and they failed the sample and it was released outside, how would the public be made aware for?
So if they failed a sample, they wouldn't take the containment down. So the containment, so they have it's called a manometer, that shows pressure inside versus pressure outside. So that's how they know that they're keeping a negative pressure in those containments. So the clearance sampling, they're still under negative pressure when that sampling is occurring. So that containment doesn't come down until we know that they've passed on their clearance samples. So,
But if something were to escape, I mean, would there be a way to notify immediate surrounding residents of containment escape, or it's just?
that's a good question.
Fair enough. Of
Yeah,
course
and
not.
I don't know that an exterior release. Not that I'm not sure that I've seen that kind of thing particularly happen. But yeah, even release to the exterior is a lot different than, like, you know, if you have a containment in here and you're releasing that kind of air into another exterior space. We're looking at very, very minute kind of pollution coming out. But
Hi, I'm Harry Perkins. My question is on the east side, where the park's gonna be at. Are they gonna take the trees and, 'cause I live right over by the alley, so I got them big old trees there, and they're knocking all the concrete out now. And I was just wondering, the city's gonna maintain all that? There's a big, walnut tree, probably 90-footer on the corner, just a question.
Is it in bad shape? I just have been wild.
It's not bad, it's right there on the corner of the alley
Okay.
and Grace Street.
Okay.
Cause when you turn the alley, there's a big, okay.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. If it's something that is in bad shape, needs to
Well,
come down, we'll
it's-
come down.
I mean, it's alive, but it's
Yeah.
a big tree, and since you all are gonna,
Yeah.
on that side now, just wondering you take all those trees out. I guess that's the question.
Probably not intending on doing it initially if we don't have to, but if we need to, then we'll add it to our list, so, yeah. We'll kind of work with the neighbors on that, and so.
I'm Jay Thorpe. I live over on Crescent Drive, and Virginia is one of the routes I take when we go places. So I'm going to try to avoid it completely, but do you know when Grand is going to open back up? Because that'll be a route that I will probably start using to avoid Virginia going places.
I don't. We have a meeting on that Monday. We have a meeting on that Monday. They're having, the engineer and the manufacturer had to go make a couple modifications to the rock slope fabricing that they're putting down. So they're just making sure. I would hope soon, but we should know fairly soon. So most of the project's done. It's just putting that matting back up. So, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm Buddy Davis. I live on Magnolia. My question is, what about the rodents and varmints and stuff that are in the old hospital right now, like the rats? And are they going to be contained so they don't come in our houses once the building's gone?
I don't know how to answer that question, so that's a good one. We'll look into that. That wasn't something that has ever been kind of discussed. So, but yeah, that's a good question. We will look into that.
There's a lot of rats in that building.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So.
So the answer is, you're gonna look into it?
It's never even something that you consider, so you're telling me this is the first time, and so I'll have to go to pest control, this next week and kind of discuss and plan on what we can do, so.
Hi, I'm Chloe. Adding on to his question, In 2012, there was an endangered bat species found in our caves in Sedalis. And while there's birds and other animals living in there, I'm sure there's also bats. So, has there been any look into that?
So the bats that live here, the Indiana bats and the gray bats, the endangered ones, do not live in places like that. They live underneath tree barks. So that this would not be a habitat for them. There could potentially be the large brown bat, but anytime of disturbance, they're going to fly away at this time of year. But the endangered bats do not live in those type of habitats. They live under tree barks. So.
And I would say these are good questions, and this is why we really wanted to do this, is because there's things that we miss and we don't think about because we're not living in the neighborhood with you guys and things of that nature. So obviously work with pest control or CSOs next week to identify those type of issues and work through a plan on how to mitigate that. So. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, we can put that plan out publicly on the city's website and things like that. So you can also reach out to your councilman, would be more than happy to share that.
And
Yeah.
and that should probably apply to cats or anything else that's in. There's rats, there's cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right. Okay. Who else? Any more questions?
Certainly, there's more questions out there, or comments.
Well, if there's, sorry, yep.
One more step.
My name is William Kerr, and I'm just curious, Hannibal Regional owned that building. They knew it was asbestos and other things going on there. They don't own it now, but they pass it on. Do they hold any kind of responsibility for those things if they come up?
Daryl, you could probably address that as well as.
The answer is no. They sold that property freely many, many years ago, and so they have no responsibility over the building. So that's all I can.
And they didn't sell it to the city.
No.
They sold it to investors that left it.
Yeah.
Last call. Anybody else? So do you have anything else you want to add, or are we ready to be done? I will say this, if something comes up and you have a question that wasn't addressed, if people watching online have a question that we didn't address, feel free to reach out to my office, city manager's office, really anybody at City Hall, building inspector's office, your council members up here. Be more than happy to get back to you.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but we had talked at one point in time of having some kind of informational thing out there, and maybe that's something we can just do through the ward, but actually have all that type of stuff put on there, whether it be a Facebook page or something of that lines. So I was going to say that earlier. I apologize.
No worries. We'll work with our social media partners for the city and try to keep that updated as we know these road closures are coming. Try to make sure we get that put out, at least a few days in advance, as early as we can, so the residents that would be affected by that know. So I would say probably direct everybody towards our social media, and we'll try to keep that updated. Correct. Correct. Okay. Council, anything else? I'm forgetting? Jessica, anything else you want to add? Nope. All right. Well, thank you guys all for coming. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Have a motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you again, everyone.
Hey, I know we can do that.
When's it start?
Put a certain separate page.